Hello everyone, happy Friday. It's Insta Live on Friday. This is Audrey Button from Safe Harbors of the Finger Lakes. I use the pronoun she, her, hers. And today we'll be talking about the Title IX investigation process and, like I said, kind of just a general overview. And this, will be important to definitely check with your school's policy and what the investigation process might look like for them. But I'll be giving kind of just a general summary of what it would possibly look like. And obviously it could be very unique. There are general things that need to be involved for that investigation process to be fair and following those Title IX rules, like we've talked about before. So if you didn't watch any of the last couple Insta Lives, I'd suggest you check those out. Some of them, I know one of them didn't make it on our Instagram because I had a hard time uploading it, but all of them I know are available on our YouTube channel. So if you hadn't watched those, definitely check those out. And so hopefully you have kind of just a better understanding what Title IX is, how to report, what this process looks like. And then I know next Friday we'll be talking about other reporting options as well. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get to it in just a second here. I just like to, give a content warning. Some of the material I'll be discussing may be sensitive to some, so please take care of yourself however you need to. And just a disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily those of Safe Harbors of the Finger Lakes, but of those in the video. And like I said, today we'll be talking about Title IX and the investigation process and what that might look like, okay? So kind of get us started, I want to kind of talk about two different ways that this, might go. So for your Title IX investigation process, and like I said, definitely check out your school's, policies and the information they provide about it. It should be available on your school's website. You should be able to, go on your school's website and search Title IX or go to the Title IX page, and you should be able to find it usually in like the Student Code of Conduct or the Title IX policies. Usually there's some sort of code book of some sort, specifically describing each of these things with definitions and all that good stuff. So I'll kind of go over. So usually they offer two different types of processes, and that's an informal resolution. Usually it's called an informal resolution process and a formal resolution process, and it's just how it sounds. So an informal wouldn't go through all the steps that would be required in a formal resolution process. So usually with an informal resolution process, it's completely voluntary by both or any parties involved. So everyone needs to be on board with it. No one should be forced into doing it or feel like they have to. It's completely voluntary, okay? And it's only used with approval from the Title IX coordinator. If the Title IX coordinator doesn't feel like this process is appropriate, depending on, the alleged allegations that are involved and any other factors that might be concerning, if it's something extremely serious that needs to go through, they feel like it needs to go through a formal process. That might be decided as well. So it needs to be approved by the Title IX coordinator usually, and may not be used usually if the allegation is involving an employee of the school. And that's really important there as well. So that's just important to know. So usually when you have an informal resolution process, prior to initiating the informal process, the Title IX coordinator will provide all parties involved with written notice of disclosed allegations, so everyone has the right to know what they're being accused of or what's being said, the requirements of the process, and the right to withdraw from this process at any time, even to pursue a formal process usually, and any consequences of the participation. So this informal process may take some sort of mediation, restorative justice, educational programming, and or training. So depending on what they feel is appropriate and what parties can agree on, that's what it might look like. So that's definitely a more informal way to deal with that situation. And usually in any instances of sexual related violence, they tend to not want to do an informal process. So it's definitely important to look into. And definitely ask, your Title IX office if you have questions, or if you want to ask any outside resources, and remember we talked about the confidential versus, private, resources on campus and off campus. So if you want to keep it fully confidential, I definitely suggest you check out your, fully confidential resources. So that might be your counseling center or, of course, Safe Harbors, which were off campus. So definitely look into that if you're looking to get a little more information about that. Okay. So the formal resolution process, this is where, so if you decide to go forward with a formal resolution process, You have to have, a signed statement. And you have to tell this information needs to go to the Title IX coordinator. It needs to be signed off by the Title IX coordinator, and then I will go forward with some sort of investigation. So that's a fact gathering process. So they assign someone who's investigating this. They're the investigator, and they will go forward and collect as much information as they can get. So parties have an equal opportunity to be heard and submit information and corroborating evidence to this person, and recommend witnesses who may have, relevant information in regards to this case, and submit questions for the other party or witnesses to the investigator that they think should be asked. So they're getting as much information as possible. It's not biased in any way. They're just gathering as much as they can to present. And they, at the end of this, after they get all the stuff that they need, and depending if there's a criminal investigation going at the same time, law enforcement may request them to hold until they've gathered all the evidence that they need as well. But once they have, Title IX is required to move forward. There is no waiting for the results of the criminal process, but law enforcement may request Title IX to hold until they've gathered all their preliminary evidence as well, and then they will give them the okay to go ahead. So that's just something to be aware of if you do both processes, and we'll talk a little bit more about that next week as well. But once they're like, okay, we got all the information that we need at this time, they'll prepare this report and it will be presented. Okay, so kind of make it, a little bit easier to understand, kind of in a flow chart kind of type of way. So you start with, your reporting party. So the person making the alleged allegations, or person who heard about these alleged allegations and are required to report those things. And I know we talked about that with, private or confidential employees or resources and what that looks like. So whoever is required to report that kind of thing to Title IX is also considered a reporting party. They're providing them information about the incident of, some sort of sexual harassment, sexual assault, dating violence, domestic violence, or stalking. So they're providing that information to Title IX, and they're saying, hey, this happened, or, the complainant. So the complainant is the person making these alleged, incident, there's this an alleged incident happening, so they are reporting it. So they're reporting this to Title IX. Then Title IX, is going to offer supportive measures of some sort, including on and off campus resources available to them. And then they're going to explain other options, including reporting to law enforcement, and all that good stuff. So they're required to provide all this information so they're aware of their options before going forward with anything. Okay, so this reporting party chooses how they would like to proceed. They can change their mind at any point in the future, so that's important to recognize. So maybe you do want to go forward with an informal, and Title IX is like, yep, that's fine. You start going into the informal process, but you change your mind, you want to do a formal process or stop at any time, you can do so. So that's important to recognize. So it's important to know that you have the right to choose what to do, and obviously, like I said, with the informal, if it's something that's concerning enough, Title IX might want to go through a formal resolution of some sort. But like I said, so say you want to do an informal resolution, you choose not to go through that process. You have continued access to those supportive measures and resources and accommodations that will make you feel safe and have equal access to your education and activities on campus. And that informal process, like I talked about before, might be some sort of mediation or education information, things like that. And that was completely voluntary, and it has to be agreed upon on the Title IX coordinator and also any parties involved. So, or they might just choose not to get in any sort of processing at all, and they might just want those supportive measures and accommodations to, make sure they feel safe on and off campus, however it may be. And then obviously no further action may be taken at the time if they decide to not go informal or formally forward. But they can, unless they change their mind at any point, and see, in the future, and then seeks additional supportive measures at that time. So say they do want to go forward, the reporting party chooses to initiate the, processes, and they file a formal complaint. Remember I said with a formal complaint, that's an official complaint made to Title IX, and it's signed off by that Title IX coordinator, okay? And a notice of these allegations is sent to both parties describing the nature of those allegations and their parties' rights during this process, okay? And like I said, that can go towards that informal process as long as both parties or all parties agree. There's that informal, process is successful, case is closed, matter is closed, it goes forward. And maybe the informal process is not successful and either a party declines to participate further in the process. They're going to most likely go to a formal, most likely, okay? So one or both parties decline to participate in the informal resolution process, so there's an investigation and hearing process begins, okay? And then that goes through that whole investigation, which is the fact-finding information, gathering all the information from witnesses and any other things involved from both parties, and they'll go forward and put that into a report and then go from there. Okay, so that's kind of just like the basic overview of a Title IX investigation process. And like I said, I could go on forever, and definitely check out your school's policy. And like I said, it should be on your Title IX page, in some sort of code of conduct policies, things like that. So just keep in mind, it's like obviously it's important for you to choose whatever processes work best for you, and you can change your mind at any moment. And if you want more information, definitely check out if you want to keep it fully confidential, reaching out to your confidential resources on or off campus, or if you're okay discussing it with Title IX, remember they're, only a private resource, so they'll keep your information private, but they might have a duty to go forward with information depending on, what's involved, okay? So with that, I will end for today, and definitely check out next week. And then, so if you need any support or want more information, you can definitely call our 24-hour hotline at 800-247-7273. You can always go to our website, which is www.shflny.org, and definitely check out your school's website as well for more information. And you can always reach out to us for any questions. Okay, and have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.